Hi. Yesterday I had to drive up to Conway, Arkansas, which is about 2.5 hours north of here, for an appointment, and that gave me some time to think about the chamber and search engine optimization and maybe a few little details to try to improve it. And primarily what I was focusing on was bio notes and how you can fine-tune them for the chamber that they might draw in a few more readers, but then also this advice would be good to use for other magazines as well, or any place you use those bio notes. Now what I was thinking was that there are basically 4 places where I use your bio notes. And those are at the bottom of the story, of course, in the meta description, which is that description of the story that you see when you do a search and it pops up with a little box and it'll have the name of the website, name of the story, and a few words underneath of it. Sometimes maybe the first few lines of the stories or description of it. All that stuff is automatically pulled from the website by the search engine, unless you use WordPress, some of the features of WordPress that can help you write your own meta description to be used in those instances. And at those instances, only about the first 163 characters of your bio notes are used, or any description that goes in that meta description field. Then the other places that I use them are in an excerpt field. I did make more use of this when I was having the chamber was coming out monthly. Now I don't really use it, but I do put the bio notes in there anyway in case some search engines might use it, or maybe I'll go back to it at some point. This would be the little field, like if you're looking at the chamber and you see a little photo, the featured image of your story there, and below it will be the title, and maybe below that will be maybe the first few lines or a little description. That's the excerpt field. That's designed to be used as an excerpt from your story or from your product description or whatever the case is, depending on how you're using it. For me, what I've been using it for is for your bio, and that way it might draw in more readers who feel they have a connection to you in some way, or that you write something they might be interested in. The other place I use it, and this is just something I started recently, so we'll see how this goes, but it's used as the alternative text for an image, or for the feature image in your story particularly. And what the alternative text is that text that shows up when you have a picture, or you have a photo, or whatever, and for some reason that image doesn't show up, you have that little bit of text that shows up in its place. Now, you can put anything you want when you're working on a website. You can put anything you want in there as the alternative text. I've used several different things, and I've been toying with different things to use. I think generally websites, instructions you have on building websites, they generally say use a description of the image, or something like that, to tell people maybe who can't see the image, or maybe if they're blind and they have a program which will read the alternative text to them so they know what the image is about. If they can't see it, they have a description of what that image is. However, you look at some famous websites, some websites that are in the big time and that are very professional, and you find they don't use the description of the image. The one I'm thinking of primarily is CNN. If you go to CNN and an image doesn't pop up, what pops up in its place is the entire story that goes along with that image. So, I should say the entire article, since it is journalism, is the entire article that goes along with that image. So that got me to thinking when I first recognized it. So I thought, why not put the bio there also? So that's where I put, that's my alternative place I've just started experimenting with. And the idea for these bios, like I say, it's about, I want to be about 50 words each. And just to be fair to everybody, I can't have everybody write 5,000 words in a biography and put it up. Nobody want to read it in the first place. And just want a quick little blurb about what your life's been like, how it relates to the story, maybe a little background on the story, maybe get some publication credits. That's generally what bio notes are used for. What I see them, how I see them best being used in a literary magazine like a Chamber, is they give you some background on the author. People like to know something about the author's lives, but they also get some keywords in there that people can associate with, that people can relate to or have a connection with. For example, let's say you write poetry and you're from Cincinnati. So, let's say you write fantasy poetry. In your bio, you might say, John Smith writes fantasy poetry, and he's from Cincinnati, Ohio. And at his publications, he's been published in the following journals. When somebody reads that, then they might think, oh, well, I'm from Cincinnati. I might want to read that. Maybe I know the guy. But also, you think, if someone is doing a search related to that, those keywords in that bio notes may pop up and put that story, put that poem, or those bio notes in somebody's search results, which draws more readers to that site, potentially. So somebody could be doing a search on poets from Cincinnati, your name pops up in their search results. So that gets you maybe more readers, more viewers. So those bio notes are very useful for the keywords they contain. Now, here's the thing about meta descriptions. All the other fields, whether it's the alternative text, or whether it's the excerpt, or whether it's the little section down at the end of the story or at the end of the poem, can essentially be infinite if you really wanted to. There's no limit on how many words they can be, or how many characters. I do ask you keep them to 50, I'll say that once again, or more or less, that's kind of a soft limit. I don't mind if it's a few more, I don't mind if it's a few less. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 50, something reasonable. But the meta description, as I understand it, most search engines, most programs, limit the meta descriptions to about 163 characters. That might be a little more or less depending on the search engine. But generally limited to 163 characters. And that's the case it is with WordPress. If I put your bio notes into the meta description, only the first 163 are going to show up. So that's, I don't know if the search engines will see the remainder in that meta description field, the things that are not visible, but it will see the first 163. So I think, and this is just my reasoning, uh, based on my experience, that in those first 163 characters of your meta description, you should put those points which are most important, those things that you want to use as keywords with which to connect to a potential reader or audience. So obviously the first thing that's going to go in is your name. Now I would recommend that you put your name, however you want to do it, even if it's a pseudonym, be consistent with it across all your stories, novels, poems, articles, whatever. Be consistent so that people searching for it on the internet will know what to search for, and they won't skip it unintentionally. I know this from experience because when I started writing, I used my name, Philip L. Slattery. The L stands for Lee, by the way. But I signed everything Philip L. Slattery. Years later, I just changed it to Phil Slattery because that's what I was going by mainly, and that's what I was signing everything as, so forth. So I just kept it at Phil Slattery, and that's how it goes now. But if someone searches for my name on the internet, if they search for Phil Slattery, they may not get that stuff that says Philip L. Slattery, or vice versa. So it's very important that you keep your name consistent across all your writing, and then put that name into your meta description. Make sure it's in the first 163 characters, which is obvious, but I want to make certain that I say that to some people. Some things aren't that obvious, pardon me. The other thing you want to put in there is the genre that you worked in primarily, or you could put in secondary genres or whatever. I would recommend that you prioritize them. Start off with your most important one, and then the less important ones go down. So if something is cut off by the system, you still have the most important things in there. So when I write horror, I might say Phil Slattery writes primarily horror. Make sure that's in there so people know how to find you, and they know to associate your name with that genre, and vice versa, that genre with your name, which may be more important. Another little thing to put in there is probably your hometown, where you're living currently, whatever place you want to be associated with, or any other little detail that you want to be associated with. The reason I see this as important is because people establish a connection with a place. My hometown is Frankfort, Kentucky. People who are from Frankfort, they'll see that I'm from Frankfort, and they'll want to know more about me, maybe they'll read stuff. But also, this helps, like in the earlier example I gave, if people are searching for horror authors from Kentucky, then my name will pop up because, or maybe that bio note in particular will pop up because it has my name, my genre, horror, and my hometown, home state. Right now I live in Arkansas, so that wouldn't pop up, unless earlier works wouldn't pop up, but anything I've written recently would show up in a search for horror authors in Arkansas. And then lastly, put in any other labels that you want to be associated with. Now, modern society is a society of labels. We label everything. We give everything a name. All the least little things. We categorize everybody with you know, what's their sexuality? What kind of personality type do they have? What kind of, what religion are they? What race are they? What ethnicity? What religious denomination? There are just thousands and actually millions probably of labels which we associate with any one person. So you want to take those labels, the main ones you want to be associated with, and put them in those 163 characters, if you can. That way, people doing a search can, on anything, can find you quickly. And if they have your name pop up in the search results, they can just glance down the page, and boom, those labels will pop out at them, and they'll see them, and maybe read your story, maybe get to know you a little better. Anyway, that's just the thoughts I had for tonight, and that's all I really want to say. So, take care, and I'll see you some other time. The mood moves me to create another video. So, have a good night.